Hello, BookTube. I have a Friday Reads for you. Friday Reads is the venerable BookTube tradition where we all talk about the stuff that we've been doing lately, the stuff we've been reading lately, the stuff we're planning on reading. It's a wonderful little benchmark, even though Friday, for a great number of people in the world, has stopped having any meaning because you've been trapped at home for a month and every day blurs into the next. Even so, stereotypically, it is, in your mind, reflexively, it is the start of a weekend. It's the start of maybe a greater amount of unclaimed time that can be put to reading. And I love watching those videos. I love watching BookTube Friday Reads videos where people just dream out loud about what they're in the midst of, what they're having problems with, what they're loving, and what they're planning on doing. And I want to do something of the same thing, maybe not in the explicitly in the quantity that I cover in the given week, but still, I want to show you some things that I am in the process of reading and some things that I am going to read. And that I have already read. The first one I want to show you is something that I reread. I'm doing a couple of times a week on this channel. I'm doing videos devoted to back issues of comic books. It's a much smaller viewership, I would imagine, than my normal videos, but it's a lot of fun for me to revisit these things. I don't look at them otherwise, which is a perfect excuse for me to get rid of these long boxes. Just throw them out. Just send them to the dump. It's a perfect excuse to do that because I'm only looking at them now to make videos about them. That means they are the definition of wasted space. But some of them have sentimental value, and I've been going through some of those issues, and they range all over creation. I mean, from the early 1950s to a couple of years ago. In one of those back issue splurges there, I came across a few issues of an old comic book series called Archer and Armstrong that was written and drawn by Barry Windsor Smith, a great comic book creator whose work I try never to miss. And I mentioned at the time that Archer and Armstrong was collected. The first few issues were collected into a hardcover. And when I was done with that throwback issue, that video, I had to go and find my hardcover and consume it in one gulp. So I did. This is Valiant First Impressions. This is the first volume of Archer and Armstrong with all of the, just fantastic Barry Windsor Smith artwork just all throughout. That's just terrific. He is so great. And this has this hardcover has the if killer ninja nuns be my destiny. This hardcover has the 3-issue run where we meet Archer, the Archer character. Armstrong is a big fat alcoholic immortal who is super strong, has been around forever. Archer is a young shaved-headed martial artist that he falls in with. They become a team and a pair of friends. And there's a couple issue series in the midst of this first run where Armstrong takes Archer to meet his wife. And we meet her, and she's on a secluded island that is a little bit strange. She is a little bit strange. And one of the strange things about the island happens to Archer later that night. He is in bed in his guest quarters when suddenly a horrifying, ravenous beast, a dinosaur, approaches him late at night, in the dead of night. But it doesn't want to hurt him. It just wants to curl up and go to sleep at the bottom of the bed. And we find out all about Armstrong's wife, and it's a great storyline. At one point during those issues, when Armstrong is mocking the kind of stereotypical Nazi villains that Barry Windsor Smith loves to use in any of his comics, I'll get you the panel. At one point when he's mocking them, they're in a helicopter, and he drops his pants. Armstrong drops his pants and says, "Go ahead, take your best shot." And they manage to hit him, and he's saying "lucky shots," when actually it's because his behind is so huge. And Barry Windsor Smith did a few more issues of these that aren't in this hardcover, including one priceless retelling of Alexander Dumas. Just amazing telling of Alexander Dumas that I guess would be in maybe another hardcover. I don't even know if Valiant did another hardcover of this. I have no idea. I should probably look into that and see, but I had to go back and revisit this. And then these next two are technically revisits because I did read these from front to back. But I recently got them on an online buying spree, and I am going to reread them. I've been dipping into them already. These are Gardner Dozois, the late great editor Gardner Dozois, did a long series, the year's best science fiction. He did like 35 of them. He did them for over a quarter of a century, every year. Big, fat, generous book. And I got them every year. For a long, long time, I got them just because I was a huge science fiction fan, and then I started getting them from the publisher as a reviewer, and reviewed a few of them. I'm sorry to see them go. I'm sorry to see that series end. And in response to the pandemic, I realized that I had a real sweet tooth for science fiction short stories, not even novels, just short stories. And I looked around, and to my horror, realized that one by one, I'd gotten rid of all of those. I guess in the back of my mind, I just sort of inexcusably thought they would go on forever, that he would go on forever. I guess I did. But one way or another, I looked around and didn't have any of them. So I went on eBay and bought some of them. And I've been so you see what I mean. They are rereads, but they are going to be new. I'm going to read them out of order. I'm going to read them out of sync. I'm going to pick and choose at random, and hopefully get a totally different experience. And the ones I picked off the pile are the 16th, oh no, the 17th and the 28th annual collections. These are going to be the first ones that I delve into. One is much bigger than the other, but even so, there's going to be a huge amount of stuff here. The one that is much bigger, this one, the 17th, I couldn't help but notice when I was flipping to the table of contents that it has some enormous names in here. Probably one of the last anthologies to have all of these in one place. Now you got Robert Reed. No, he's a great science fiction author, but only short stories. Nobody knows him. He contents himself with writing short stories for Analog and Asimov. Hardly an issue goes by when he doesn't have one, and hardly an issue when he's in the table of contents for Analog or Asimov when he isn't the best thing in it, no matter who else is. So he's in here. But also Alistair Reynolds, Stephen Baxter, Fred Pohl, M. John Harrison, Ben Bova, Michael Swanwick, Robert Silverberg is in here, Walter John Williams, Kim Stanley Robinson, Tanith Lee, Hal Clement. It's just a stellar lineup. There are a lot of names that I recognize in this one, but they're a lot less known to me, if you know what I mean. So these are going to be the first two forays that I'm going to do in science fiction short stories, where I just read at random. I'll read the last book, the last story in one collection, then I'll jump to the other one and read something right in the middle until I've covered them all, and that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun to do. And these I will keep instead of getting rid of them. I'm almost tempted to get all the rest of them, but online book buying is a vortex, so you have to be very careful. A lot of you will probably know that better than I do. And then we get to this next one. This next one has been commanding my attention to such an extent that I'm worried that if I read it, I'll read nothing else, that I'll just sort of glom all over it, like I did that big National Geographic Book of Birds a couple of years ago, where I just couldn't let go of it. I took it everywhere. And that's this big, gorgeous El Greco volume. It's all the ephemera. It's all the connected artwork and the predecessors and whatnot. But it's also all of the big plates and tons of prose about this artist. And that is just, oh my, oh my. So that's on the docket for this weekend. I'm just going to have to make sure that it doesn't eclipse everything else. And then I think we've seen all of these others. These are all things that I'm just going to be getting to. I think they're mostly May releases with one exception. This first one is a debut. It's Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. Big fat fantasy novel. We'll see. I pulled this off as a likely candidate because I'm a little worried that reading too much in the way of science fiction short stories will disincline me to read big books, big novels. I don't want that. I don't want that. I, like a lot of old-time science fiction fans, I fell in love with the genre through short stories. But I've still loved a lot of novels, and I don't want to lose that. So this is on the docket. No, well, not only that. This is this is an early May release. I don't know if that is true. That date may have changed. I will double check. But it's such a big book, and it's a debut. I'm probably going to want to read it more than once anyway. So I'll pay it a lot of attention this weekend, and then double check. The next one is also science fiction, but it's YA science fiction. This is The Extraordinaries by T.J. Klune, which is a gay YA novel about superheroes, I believe. Oh, God. Okay, it's not going to tell me anything. Maybe the sheet will tell me something. The book is telling me precious little. Some people are extraordinary, and some are just extra. Nick Bell, not extraordinary, but he is the most popular fan fiction writer in the Extraordinaries fandom. However, after a chance encounter with one of the heroes Nick writes about, who also happens to be his biggest crush, Nick sets out to make himself extraordinary. And he will do it with or without the help of Seth Gray, Nick's best friend and potentially the love of his life. And this is Klune. Let's see here. Klune is who is also neurodiverse. I don't know what that means. Neurodiverse. Is that more than one nervous system? Okay, I don't know what that means, but he is one, or whatever that is. He's neurodiverse, shares several commonalities with the main character in The Extraordinaries. Oh, that's disturbing, but we shall see. The book might be good anyway. Illuminating what it's like to experience the world with ADHD. Okay. Is ADHD is so if you have ADHD, you are neurodiverse? Is that what that means? So an illness is now diversity? Is that I can't help but think by the linking in the sentence that that's what I'm supposed to believe. So someone who has severe ADHD wouldn't lose it if you held out a magic hand that said take it and you won't have this anymore? Is that right? So is that what we're saying here? That ADHD is neurodiversity? There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just neurodiverse. And then maybe you're a bigot if you don't like it and wish that it were cured. Okay. All right. Today, more than ever, Clune understands the need for accurate, positive, queer, and mental health representation in stories. Well, it's not mental health if it's diversity. Are you saying that it's a mental illness or not? Are you saying it's a mental deficiency, a mental ill health, or not? You can't have it both ways. It's either something you wish were cured, or it's something you're proud of and march under the flag of at a parade. Although why understands the need for accurate, positive, queer, and mental health representation now more than ever? Why? Why is that need greater now than ever? Anyway, all right. The pub sheet is giving me trouble, but the book sounds like a lot of innocent fun. We'll just tough out the rest of this paragraph and then call it a day. The Extraordinaries delivers an emotionally impactful story that is both laugh out loud hilarious and thought provoking, as the diverse cast of characters grapple with themes like sexism, classism, and more. Okay. All right. Well, this is a debut. And that's a blanket that covers many sins. This is a debut, so we shall see. And it's dated for early May, so who knows? I'll have to double check on that. But I'm always up for most of the components that were described there in one way or another. I'm mostly up for them. So I'm not sure about this combination. I'm also not sure that I want to be told. I don't know. We shall see. If you have jumped on the virtue box, the virtue signaling progressive stack fad to the extent where you are calling disabilities diversity, then you have a serious problem, and you need to get off Twitter for the rest of the year. That ought to fix it all by itself. You might want to get some new friends, but even if you keep your old friends, you need to get off Twitter for the rest of the year. Because if you're talking about something that can be in any kind of accuracy called an affliction, and you're calling it diversity, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Is that to protect it against discrimination? Well, we shouldn't be discriminating against anybody anyway. So why lie about it? You don't have to lie about it to get it the protection against discrimination. All discrimination is bad. But a person who had a leg amputated is not limb diverse. Okay? They're not limb diverse. If you ask them if they want their leg back and they say no, they're mentally insane. They need help. Their affliction has poisoned their mind. It's warped their reason. We shall see. Maybe I'll be arguing with this thing, but I don't know. That was a pub sheet. It might not be the book. The book sounds adorable. The writer of a superhero's fan fiction who's determined to become, I guess, fit to be that superhero's sidekick, all the while ignoring what may be the love of his life right under his nose. That sounds like a lot of fun. We'll see how this does. I will double check to see the date on it. Maybe it's not coming out in May, and I will report back. Sooner or later, I will report back on how it is. And then the last one. Sorry, I didn't mean to include a rant there. This last one has a pub sheet, so we know that we got it a long time ago. This is, I believe, an August release, unless that changes. This is late August. We've seen it already. This is Wendy Holden's book, The Royal Governess, a novel of Queen Elizabeth II's childhood. And it is, the pub sheet says, rather hilariously, the pub sheet says, reveals a spirited young governess who made her the icon we love today, a story that has never been told until now. When there was a time, 70 years ago, when this story was told, and it was headline news all over the world. So it's not that it hasn't been told before today. It's just that the person who wrote this pub sheet is probably in their late 20s. That's all, instead of in their late 100s like I am. But let's see here. This is a tale of the Queen's upbringing from an entirely new angle. Her relationship with her childhood governess. And can also serve as the prequel to The Crown, as the book ends right where the show picks up. In 1933, 22-year-old Marion Crawford accepts the role of a lifetime, tutoring the little princesses Elizabeth and Margaret Rose. Her one stipulation to their parents, the Duke and Duchess of York, is that she brings some doses of normalcy to the sheltered and privileged lives of her charges. At Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and Balmoral, Marion defies stuffy protocol and takes the princesses on tube trains, swimming at public baths, and on joyful Christmas shopping trips to Woolworths. From her ringside seat at the heart of the British monarchy, she witnesses the 20th century's history's most seismic events. And some of you Windsor watchers will know what one of those is. The trauma of the abdication, right, there was the first one listed. The glamour of the coronation, the onset of World War II. She steers the little girls through it all, as close as a mother. But being beloved confidant to the Windsors comes at a huge personal cost. Marriage, children, Marion's own views, all are compromised by proximity to royal glory. There's a reason you haven't heard of Marion before. Okay, she wrote a book, and it was all over the world. There's a reason why the 21st century hasn't heard of her before. It's that she's not an unearthed figure. She's not a historical footnote. She made headlines all over the world. But anyway, there's a reason you haven't heard of her before. In 1950, she wrote an unauthorized book about the life of a royal governess called The Little Princesses. Harmless, loving, and admiring though it was, the book was regarded by the royals as an appalling betrayal. They cast Crawford out and never saw her again. As a result, she almost literally disappeared from history. Yet she had looked after the girls devotedly for 17 years, sacrificing her own chances of a family and personal life in the process. Marion spent the rest of her life hoping for forgiveness, even buying a house on the road to Balmoral. But the passing royal limos never stopped, and when she died, there wasn't a single royal follower at her Eleanor Rigby-esque funeral. And this is an August release. It's a way down the road. I haven't touched it yet. I have a penchant for the Windsors. I know everything about this story. So the changes and the emphases that the author makes in the story will be immediately apparent to me and probably very noteworthy. I take a little issue with the pub sheet's characterization. It's also been the characterization ever since that although her book was harmless, loving, and admiring, it was regarded by the royals as an appalling betrayal. It was an appalling betrayal. She was hired specifically under the auspices of confidentiality, that you don't tell tales out of school, that you literally won't tell the world about our personal private life. She was hired not only to bring a little bit of normality to the girl's life, but also for that discretion. And she cashed in on it for a book, and it made her very wealthy. So a treatment of her that says she did absolutely nothing wrong is not going to fly. We'll see. This is, again, just the pub sheet. We'll see what the book does. But the reason that I'm going so far down the road for this thing, it's an August release, late August, is because I've been commissioned to review it. Very nicely. Very nice. Can't wait to dig in, get all the details, sort it out. And my review is in August, so it'll give me a nice long time. I'm going to read it for the first time this weekend, and I'll let it mull. I'll sit and let it sit and age in the cellars for a while, and then in early August I'll read it again and start taking active notes and figuring out what I want to say about it. It's an enormous story, and as usual, I have only 800 words, so I can't tell much of that story. I'm figuring right now I will probably devote 300 of those 800 words to the story. Because I want readers of my review to know that this was a huge story. This is a footnote in royal history. It's not unknown. It's not like no one had any idea who this woman was. They did. So I might want to tell that story is interesting in its own right. And I think I would need, in a review like that, I think I would need to set up the story in order to effectively to usefully comment on the changes that the author makes. She's bound to change some things or emphasize some things, and those won't have as much meaning for the reader if they don't know the real story. So I'll figure it out. I have a nice long time. That's nice. That's very nice. When you are a freelancer, an Old Bailey hack, when you're a gun for hire, especially when you work fast, sometimes editors know that, and so they don't give you a whole lot of time. They just say, "Oh my God, somebody just dropped in their tracks, and I'm going to have a wide open space on my page if you don't help out. Can you write this at 800 words?" by, I don't know, tomorrow. I'm willing to pay you extra, but you don't have any time to reflect or redact. I know from a fact, or I know from friends of mine in the editorial world, that you can give me clean copy that I'm not going to need to labor over, that's not going to need any rewrites, and that you can do it overnight. Could you do that? Could you be a dear and do that? This is not a case where that is true. I have a nice long amount of time to review this. That's great. So anyway, that is my Friday reads. And as usual, well, that's part of my Friday reads. You just know that those science fiction anthologies are going to lead to other short story reading. You just know that they are. I'm not going to be able to settle for just the, 3 dozen stories in here. I know that I'm going to read more. I shouldn't do that. I should parse out all of those anthologies that I bought so they last instead of reading them all in one day. But anyway, it's Friday. It's Friday reads. I'd love to know what you're reading for the weekend. Ordinarily on this channel, I of course avoid anything of what my YouTuber friends refer to as calls to action. Most of them end their videos or start their videos with a barrage of call to action. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications, because otherwise you might not see the subscription. That isn't true. That's just a lie. But it's meant to add another thing that they get you to do. It's another point of data for YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that smash that like button if you like this video, or even you don't, because I went to the bother making it, so you should like it. And make sure you hit that bell so that you get notifications that when I make a new video. And here are all my social media. Be sure to go and follow me on all of those. All those calls to actions start at the beginning. But then all these professional YouTubers, their videos tend to end with a barrage of calls to action as well. And they are things like, what do you think of this, guys? What do you make of this? I'm interested in what you have to say. Told from multimillionaire absolute charlatans who never look at their comments field. Never. Do it as a point of pride. It's not just that they don't have the time. It's that, no, don't feed the trolls. That's where mentally defective people are. Why would I read the comments section? If I really need somebody to look over the comments section, I'll find somebody and pay them something, because I make a ton of money. So I'll just pay them to read my comments. But they aren't authorized to speak in my name. There'll be no responses of any kind. Let them fight amongst themselves, is what I heard one big YouTuber say. Let them fight amongst themselves. Basically saying let the peons fight amongst themselves. But they'll always end their videos with a whole barrage of calls to action. Now, let me know what you think. What do you think of this, guys? What's your opinion? They're not interested in your opinion at all. Not at all. If you somehow manage to find them and give them their opinion, they call the police. Or they just have one of their bodyguards shoot you on the spot. But nevertheless, I am sincere. When it comes to Friday Reads videos, I actually want to know, what is the shape of your reading at the moment? What have you just finished? What are you reading now? What are you looking forward to reading the upcoming week? Perfectly happy to hear that. Of course, perfectly happy to hear anything else as well. I'll leave my email on this video, as I do on all others. The professional YouTubers I know who know that I do that are absolutely horrified by it. But I've had nothing but fun. With very, very, very rare exceptions. It's been just wonderful hearing all kinds of questions and comments and stuff like that, with only a few lapses of basic decorum. And I chalk that up to the fact that a lot of people are writing to me who were born in the 21st century. So they don't have any idea what constitutes decorum. They don't have any idea what constitutes normal behavior, non-rude behavior. So every once in a blue moon, mostly fantastic emails, every once in a blue moon, somebody will write to me and say, hey, can you tell me the author of this book? And not a rare book either. Here's a book that I just found. Can you tell me the author? and I have to write back and say, yeah, I can tell you the author. You can also look it up. It takes 2 seconds to do. You have the entire collected knowledge of the entire history of humanity literally at your fingertips in your wallet every day. So you can look it up yourself. Okay, those are very, very rare. So in those emails or in the comments section of this video, I'd be happy if you would tell me what your Friday read prospects are like. And be sure to smash that like button. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.